India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. ISRO launches SpaDex mission. Successful separation of satellites marks another milestone in India's space journey. South Korean court issues arrest warrant for impeached President Yoon. US Treasury Department says systems hacked by China-backed actor earlier this month. Five years on, World Health Organization implores China to share data on COVID origins. And cities across the globe prepare to welcome the new year in celebrations tinged with local traditions. And on to the details now. A South Korean court has issued an arrest warrant for impeached suspended President Yoon Suk-yeol. Yoon has been impeached and suspended from power over his decision to impose martial law on December 3rd. He's facing a criminal investigation into possible insurrection charges, while the ruling party interim leader said that attempting to detain a sitting president is not appropriate. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's lawyer, Yoon Keun, also said that Yoon's martial law declaration on December 3rd did not constitute insurrection and the arrest warrant against him was invalid. This is the first ever arrest warrant issued for an incumbent president in South Korea. On Monday, South Korean investigators sought an arrest warrant for Yoon over this month's short-lived imposition of martial law. Police have tried but failed to successfully raid the presidential office as part of the investigation. Insurrection is one of the few charges for which a South Korean president does not have immunity. Meanwhile, South Korean protesters held a rally near the presidential residence after the court approved an arrest warrant for President Yoon Suk-yeol. Yoon was suspended from presidential powers after being impeached by the parliament over his decision to briefly impose martial law. Masked martial law troops equipped with rifles, body armor and night vision equipment entered the parliament, where they faced off with staffers who opposed them with fire extinguishers. The decree lasted just hours until the parliament voted it down and Yoon backed down. While Yoon Suk-yeol, a former South Korean president, seems to be staring at mounting troubles after opposition lawmakers voted to impeach the interim, he's staring at legal troubles as the court issued an arrest warrant for impeached, suspended president. One fatal decision is behind the trail of disaster for Yoon. Here is how the event unfolded. Yoon on the 3rd of December declared martial law in an unannounced late-night address. South Korean opposition party called for the dismissal of martial law on December 4th. Parliament passed a motion on the same day requiring the martial law declared by Yoon to be lifted. The South Korean parliament formally introduced a motion to impeach Yoon on December 5th. Yoon survived impeachment motion in the parliament after members of his party boycotted the vote on December 7th. Thousands of demonstrators demanded Yoon be impeached. South Korean police tried to search Yoon's office on December 11th as an investigation into his decision. Yoon on December 12th lashed out at his political opponents, saying North Korea has hacked the country's elections. On the same day, opposition parties submitted a new bill to Parliament to impeach Yoon. Parliament impeached Yoon on December 14th, voting to suspend him from his official duties. On December 14th, South Korean officials delivered the official documents declaring Yoon's impeachment. Constitutional Court began reviewing the impeachment of Yoon over the martial law declaration on December 16th. Parliament voted on December 27th to impeach Prime Minister and Acting President Han Duck-soo just 2 weeks after it stripped President Yoon. And updates now on South Korea's worst air disaster. South Korea's acting president Choi Sang-mok on Tuesday morning paid tribute to victims of the Jeju airplane crash. Choi was accompanied by a group of officials as he laid flowers and bowed to pay respects at the memorial set up in Seoul. The acting South Korean president The acting South Korean president on Monday ordered an emergency safety inspection of the country's entire airline operation system as investigators worked to identify victims and find out what caused the disaster. Meanwhile, the National Transportation Safety Board of United States sent investigators, including an accredited representative and investigators with specialities in operational factors and airworthiness, to South Korea to assist with the investigation of the December 29th Jeju air accident that left 179 people dead. Well, the Chinese state-sponsored hackers breached the U.S. Treasury Department's computer security guardrails this month and stole the documents. The hackers compromised third-party cybersecurity service provider Beyond Trust and were able to access unclassified documents. More in this report.
The U.S. Treasury Department said Monday that a China state-sponsored actor was behind a cyber breach, resulting in access to some of its workstations. The incident happened earlier this month when the actor compromised a third-party cybersecurity service provider and was able to remotely access the Treasury workstations and some unclassified documents. Treasury contacted the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency after it was alerted of the situation by its provider, Beyond Trust. The compromised Beyond Trust service has been subsequently taken offline. The Treasury has attributed the incident to a China state-sponsored advanced persistent threat actor. An APT refers to a cyber attack where an intruder establishes and maintains unauthorized access to a target, remaining undetected for a sustained period of time. The department did not provide further details on what was affected by the breach, but said more information would be released in a supplemental report at a later date. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, in a recent development, Chinese state-sponsored hackers accessed several U.S. Treasury Department workstations and unclassified documents after exploiting a third-party software provider, the agency revealed. The breach, classified as a major cybersecurity incident, is under investigation as a brief history of alleged cyber attacks by China, the U.S. and Europe.
In March 2024, U.S. Department of Justice indictment revealed that 7 hackers associated with Chinese government were charged with computer intrusions targeting perceived critics of China and U.S. businesses and politicians. Over 10,000 malicious emails impacting thousands of victims across multiple continents were reported. As alleged in the indictment, it was part of a global hacking operation which targeted journalists, political officials, and companies to repress critics of China and its regime, compromise government institutions, and steal trade secrets. May 2024, Chinese hackers hit Britain's Ministry of Defence with a cyber attack that exposed sensitive information on every troop apart from the UK's Special Forces. The attackers targeted a third-party contractor to access names and bank details of current and former members of the armed forces. The UK Minister of Defence stopped short of publicly naming China as the culprit. February 2024, Chinese spies placed malware in a Dutch military network in 2023. The network was not connected to the Defence Ministry's main network, which reduced damage. Netherlands has publicly accused China of cyber espionage. August 2023, Chinese hackers obtained personal and political emails of a US congressman from Nebraska. The hackers exploited the same Microsoft vulnerability that gave them access to emails from the State Department and Department of Commerce. May 2023, Chinese hackers breached communications networks at a US outpost in Guam. The hackers used legitimate credentials, making it harder to detect them. December 2022, Chinese government-linked hackers stole at least $20 million in COVID-19 relief funds from the US government, including Small Business Administration loans and unemployment insurance money. The US Secret Service announced they retrieved half of the stolen funds.
And updates on Russia-Ukraine conflict now. Russia and Ukraine swapped more than 300 prisoners of war on Monday in an exchange brokered by the United Arab Emirates ahead of the New Year's Eve. The Russian Defense Ministry said 150 Russian servicemen were returned from territory controlled by the Kyiv regime. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Kyiv received 189 people as part of the deal, including soldiers, border guards and 2 civilians from the Russian-occupied city of Mariupol. He thanked the United Arab Emirates and other partners for facilitating the swap. Ukraine said that Moscow had released a total of 3,956 people since the start of the conflict. The swap resulted in an emotional homecoming for many prisoners, just in time for New Year's Eve. Russia's Human Rights Commissioner Tatiana Monkoslukova stated that the individuals involved in the prisoner swap will be reunited with their relatives and friends, allowing them to celebrate the New Year in their homeland. And the World Health Organization has urged China to share data on the origins of the COVID pandemic. 5 years after the first cases of COVID-19 were reported in the Chinese city of Wuhan, the World Health Organization said it's still waiting for full cooperation from Beijing to clarify the origin of the COVID-19 pandemic. WHO said in a statement that this is a moral and scientific imperative. It further added that the health agency continues to call on China to share data and access so the WHO can understand the origins of COVID-19. The WHO warned that without transparency, sharing and cooperation among countries, the world cannot adequately prevent and prepare for future epidemics and pandemics. And now let's take a look at Donald Trump's charges against the World Health Organization and China after the outbreak of COVID-19. Well, Donald Trump repeatedly criticized the World Health Organization and China in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. He labeled the WHO a puppet of China and accused it of allowing the virus to spiral out of control, resulting in the loss of many lives. Trump expressed concerns over the use of America's generosity and criticized the WHO for failing to properly assess the Wuhan outbreak, which he believed worsened the crisis. Former U.S. Health Secretary Alex Azar echoed the sentiment, stating that the WHO failed to obtain crucial information for the world. Trump also accused China of covering up the outbreak and the WHO failing to hold Beijing accountable. He argued that the WHO provided bad advice, often siding with China. In response, Trump shared a letter sent to WHO Chief Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus outlining specific issues and ultimately halted U.S. funding to the organization, citing its failure in handling the pandemic. Now, is Trump determined to pull out the U.S. from the WHO in 2025? Well, Trump's transition team has plans to withdraw the U.S. from the organization, a move that would significantly reduce the WHO's funding and hinder its ability to respond to global health crisis. As the largest donor, contributing about 16% of the WHO's funding in 2022-2023, the U.S. plays a crucial role in the agency's operations. Trump began the process of withdrawal in 2020, but his successor, President Joe Biden, reversed the decision in 2021. Now, whether the U.S. reconsiders its position on the WHO will depend on the priorities of the administration in office at that time. And moving on, President of Nepal, Ramchandra Paudel, issued the Cooperatives Ordinance on Sunday. The President issued the ordinance as per Article 114 of the Constitution on the recommendation of the Council of Ministers. Now, all the depositors will have to disclose the source of the money if they are to save more than ₹1 million in a cooperative. The new law prohibits members or borrowers from becoming members of more than one cooperative. However, this ordinance also makes it mandatory for a person who is a member of more than one cooperative organization to maintain membership in only one organization. The ordinance makes provisions for issuing loans accordingly, while the terms of directors has also been reduced to 2 years. With the ordinance in force, cooperatives that primarily engage in savings and credits will now have to protect savings by becoming members of the Deposit and Credit Protection Fund. The ordinance will have to be endorsed during the winter session of Parliament to become an act. The ordinance establishes a national cooperative regulatory authority to regulate savings and credit cooperatives, abolishes the National Cooperative Development Board Act 1992, and mandates the return of up to ₹500,000 in depositor savings as a priority. And UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for making 2025 a new beginning. In a New Year's message reflecting 2024, he stated that hope has been hard to find. The Secretary General noted that the top 10 hottest years on record have occurred in the past decade. The Secretary...
In 2025, countries must put the world on a safer path by dramatically slashing emissions and supporting the transition to a renewable future. It is essential and it is possible.
Well, the Secretary General concluded by stating that there are no guarantees for what lies ahead in 2025. He pledged to stand with all those working to forge a more peaceful, equal, stable and healthy future for all the people.
There are no guarantees for what's ahead in 2025. But I pledge to stand with all those who are working to forge a more peaceful, equal, stable and healthy future for all people. Together we can make 2025 a new beginning, not as a world divided, but as nations united.
And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. The existing deal for Russian gas transit through Ukraine is set to expire on Tuesday. India's Grandmaster R. Vaishali qualifies for the knockout stage of the World Blitz Championship 2024. And the last sunrise of the year painted the sky with hues of tangerine and gold across India. The year 2024 was marked by some historic elections across the continents, coupled with global unrest. Beat historic third-term win for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi with unprecedented mandate, US President-elect Donald Trump making a spectacular comeback. Curtains down for the year 2024. What an year it was. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and moving on. In a major milestone, the Indian Space Research Organisation launched its year-end mission, PSLV-C60, carrying the Space Docking Experiment or SpaDex from Sriharikota, Andhra Pradesh. This historic mission aims to achieve the rare feat of docking 2 satellites in space. Just after 10 p.m. IST on Monday, PSLV-C60 rocket lifted from the first launch pad at Sriharikota and placed 2 small satellites, each weighing 220 kgs, in the right orbit of 475-kilometer circular orbit after over 15 minutes of flight. The first satellite separated 15.1 minutes after launch, followed by the second at 15.2 minutes.
Beautiful sight to behold.
Designed as a cost-effective technology demonstrator, SpaDex will showcase rendezvous docking and undocking of 2 small spacecraft in low Earth orbit, paving the way for advanced in-space operations.
I'm really happy to announce the successful accomplishment of the launch of PSLV-C60 for the SpaDex mission. The rocket has placed the satellites in the right orbit, which is 475 kilometer circular orbit. SpaDex 2 satellites are moved. You would have seen in the animation that they moved little one behind the other. So over the period of time, for the days, it will pick up further distance, travel to almost a 20-kilometer distance away.
While ISRO is gearing up to achieve a significant milestone with a geosynchronous launch vehicle mission scheduled in January, set to become the 100th launch from the Sriharikota spaceport. Monday's PSLV C-60 mission was the 99th launch from Sriharikota, which successfully placed 2 spacecraft for conducting the space docking experiment in a circular orbit.
For us, this is the 99th launch of any launch vehicle from Satish Dhawan Space Center. So that's also a very important number. So we are going for the 100th launch in the beginning of next year. In this 99th launch, the PSLV, the Corelon configuration of the PSLV C-60, placed 2 SpaDex satellites weighing 220 kg into a circular orbit of 475 kilometers.
While talking to media, ISRO chairman said that the first stage of the PSLV will provide housekeeping support for the payloads, with the process expected to complete soon.
Payloads, they are not satellites, they are going to be attached to the stage, conducting experiments for next 2 months. The upper stage of the PSLV will act as a spacecraft, providing all the housekeeping support for the payloads to operate. And that will be done in a lower orbit, that will be lower to 350 kilometer. And the process is currently going on, still not reached there. So tonight, in another, maybe in less than an hour, it will reach. After that, we will have many activities to continue. You heard that the SpaDex will have many operations tomorrow onwards, arresting its motion and reaching the docking condition on possibly on 7th of January.
Well, Union Home Minister Amit Shah applauded the success of SpaDex mission launch. Posting on social media platform X, he wrote, and I quote, "Bharat places to become the 4th nation to master space docking. Kudos to Team ISRO on the successful launch of SpaDex mission. This is a grand success that opens a new path for Bharat in space docking technology and strengthens its role as a global leader in space. All my best wishes to our geniuses for the journey ahead." An Indian government extending all possible help in the matter of Nimisha Priya. In response to media queries regarding the case of Nimisha Priya, Indian Ministry of External Affairs said that they are aware of the sentencing of Nimisha Priya in Yemen and also understand that the family affair is exploring relevant options. Nimisha Priya from Kerala has been on death row in Yemen since 2018 after being convicted of murdering a Yemeni citizen, Talal Abdo Mahdi, in 2017. Mahdi had abused her. Funds were also raised for her to pay for blood money. And the Quad partnership comprising India, Australia, Japan and the United States celebrated its 20th anniversary, tracing its origins to the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami. Initially formed for disaster relief, the group has since evolved into a significant strategic alliance focused on a free, open and prosperous Indo-Pacific region. A joint statement released by the 4 nations recognized the catastrophic impact of the 2004 tsunami, which claimed nearly 250,000 lives and displaced millions across 14 countries. The Quad nations, contributing over 40,000 emergency responders, worked together to provide critical relief. And as the year 2024's final dawn broke on Tuesday, the last sunrise of the year painted the sky with hues of tangerine and gold. Cities across India bathed in a warm, gentle light, as if nature itself reflected in the passing of time. The sun rose slowly, a burning ember on the horizon, casting shadows across the landscape. Well, sunrises are a moments of introspection, more today as it is time to bid farewell to the old year and welcome the promise of a new one. As the sun rises high in the sky, it illuminates the possibilities and opportunities that lie ahead, filling our hearts with hope and our spirits with renewal. These moments remind us that every ending marks a new beginning. The last sunrise of the year symbolizes hope, renewal, and a promise of a fresh start. And on to some business news now. The existing deal for Russian gas transit through Ukraine is set to expire on Tuesday. Supplies of Russian gas via Ukraine are due to stop from the early hours of January 1st after the current 5-year deal expires. Kyiv has refused to negotiate a new transit deal as its conflict against Russia approaches the end of a third year. Russian President Vladimir Putin said last week that there was no time left this year to sign a new Ukrainian gas transit deal, laying the blame on Kyiv for refusing to extend the agreement. The Soviet-era Urengoy-Pomory-Uzhgorod pipeline brings gas from Siberia via the town of Sudza. And on to sports now. Grandmaster R. Vaishali has qualified for the knockout stage of the Women's World Blitz Championship 2024 after winning 8 of her first 10 matches in New York. Vaishali was the lone Indian to qualify for the second stage after newly crowned World Rapid Champion Conrado Humpy missed out in the top 8, finishing in the 9th place. Well, the curtains will close in the year 2024 on Tuesday as the world prepares to welcome New Year 2025. People are bracing for the transition. Rio de Janeiro's iconic Copacabana beach was buzzing with activity on Monday as preparations for the world's largest New Year's Eve celebration were finalized. Luoyang, a city in central China known as the hometown of fireworks, held a special firework display to ring in the upcoming New Year. This spectacular event brought a dazzling array of colors and lights to the sky. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.